Georgia blows out Clemson 34-3. The over-under was 48.5, and Georgia was favored by 12.5 points. This was the first time in a decade since 2014 against Florida State that Clemson was a double-digit underdog. And we saw this game as a major stalemate in the first half, but Kirby Smart just really didn't open up the playbook yet. I think he was expecting Dabo Swinney to come out with more than what he actually did. There were a ton of drag routes from both of these teams, a lot of swing passes, screens. Everything was really short with, some minimal downfield play. It was, again, a stalemate from both teams, and especially with both quarterbacks as well. But when you look at the second half, Kirby Smart absolutely opened up the playbook, with QB options, trusting Carson Beck with his legs, more downfield throws, more complex schemes, and it really reflected on the scoreboard as Georgia ran away with this game really right out of halftime. And when you look at the certain factors that could have played in for Clemson to actually beat Georgia, they could have done it because Georgia had an inexperienced running back room up until this point. It wasn't proven. And, it's really still not after just one game. ETN's suspension happens just a couple of minutes or really a couple of hours before the game actually kicks off. There was question marks in the secondary, especially with the safety position that was opposite of Malachi Starks, losing big-time receiving talent to the NFL with, Ladd McConkey, Brock Bowers. And UGA absolutely shunned all of this. I mean, they had Robinson at running back, Jones, Frazier, and Bell were all available, and Georgia still shined on the ground without Trevor Etienne, who was the only new out of the starting 22 for Georgia, and showed a young and inexperienced running back room, or really proved to the media that it wasn't that, and absolutely shined. Frazier was the nation's second-rated running back in the 2024 class per 24/7 Sports. He lived up to that without a question. 11 carries, 83 yards, and a touchdown. I was really impressed with Carson Beck in this game, too. I thought he had a lot to prove coming into the season. Love his ink on the right arm, by the way. You could just see him really maturing as a player, and I'd love to check out what he's really got going on with that tattoo. But Carson Beck really, really impressed me in this game, man. It just was an absolute mismatch as he was going up against Cade Klubnik. And you watch Cade Klubnik struggle all game. And that's a big testament to what Georgia's defense was able to do. But you look at Carson Beck, 23 of 33, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, no ugly throws, no risky throws. I felt like that Carson Beck put out there. But when you look at what Cade Klubnik was unable to do, struggling all game long. And I'm sitting there in the stands as Georgia's starting to just really close in on this game. And I think if he throws a pick, that's the game. And he ends up throwing that interception to Malachi Starks. Beautiful play by Malachi, by the way. And Georgia ends up just, taking the rest of the way, and the rest is history. Carson Beck really shined in this game, though, again, targeted 11 different receivers, looked great on a couple of quarterback scrambles and option plays that he actually ran. But there are a lot of questions now about Cade Klubnik coming into the season that still aren't answered after this game, because you have Trevor Lawrence, and then you have the transition to DJU, and now you have Cade Klubnik. And it's just you have not found your answer at the quarterback position. And Cade had more to prove coming into this year as well. I said that coming in. And up to this point, Cade Klubnik still needs to show us if he's able to do that, because he didn't play well in this game. And we understand that Georgia's going to make a lot of teams look this bad. And that's not to say that this is the pedigree of Cade Klubnik's talent, because it's not. But he looked horrible. 18 of 29, 142 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Unable to pick up on blitz packages, ain't able to read the disguising coverages that Georgia was throwing at him, and hats off to the defense and what Georgia is able to do. Another big mismatch in this game was obviously the head coaching of Kirby Smart versus Dabo Swinney. Clemson has a lot of reflecting to do, because it's clear they don't believe in the transfer portal, or at least Dabo Swinney doesn't. Clemson was the only school outside of Navy, Army, and Air Force to not have a single transfer come in this year. And since 2021, they've only added 2 players in the portal. Those are both reserve quarterbacks, and they've lost 43 players to the portal. But Dabo Swinney's comfortable sitting here and saying that the media is going to say what they want to say, and we know what this team is built on. We know what your team is built on as well. Your fans just spent a ton of money to come to Atlanta and watch you guys kick a field goal. So it wasn't very, very good at all. And we understand that Dabo Swinney's never going to get fired because of what he's done for Clemson and the national championships and the pedigree and the talent that he's put out in that university. But he has to get active in the transfer portal, because he can't just depend on recruits and commits and high school seniors to come right in and get him over the hump in today's college football land. because it doesn't work that way. There's a reason that the Georgias and the Alabamas and, Colorado kind of trying to come up recently for a team that wasn't on the map at all. Deion jumps in, gets the transfer portal going. I'm not trying to compare Clemson to Colorado, but when you talk about transfer portal activity, you have to know how to work the landscape, which is way different in today's college football. I would say the only bad spot for Georgia was 7 flags for 70 yards, and they were 4 for 11 on third down. But it was very clear that once Kirby opened up the playbook, Carson Beck was not going to shy away from the opportunities. Lawson Lucky and London Humphreys were not going to shy away from the opportunities. Malachi Starks absolutely played well, and that interception from him, just absolutely beautiful. Athletic play on the sidelines. No doubt about it that he was going to be the one to come down with that football. I love to say this. Georgia came in as the number one team in the country. They undoubtedly played like the number one team in the country, and they handled business the most out of every team that played this weekend. I understand Tennessee dropped 60 plus. I understand Auburn dropped 70 plus. But we're talking about a top 15 matchup in a neutral site to open up the year when both quarterbacks still have things to prove. I understand Georgia's sporting the best coach in college football. I'm not going to deny that. But I definitely thought it was going to be closer. I had Georgia winning 24-17, and that was not the case.